With nothing better to do on a Saturday afternoon than to review my collection of Carcano rifles, I figured I'd make a video and we'll go through what I kind of have right at this point and the differences. So we'll start off with the long rifles. On the top is an 1891 long rifle, and on the bottom is the 1891/41 long rifle. Now, these are the only two examples of long rifles in the whole Carcano family in 6.5 millimeter. And they are also the only ones that should have a straight bolt handle. If you have a carbine with a straight bolt handle on it, it is not correct. Okay? The main difference between the two long rifles is the earlier version had the 5 facets on the back of the barrel shank, this longer, older style rear sight, which starts off at 300 meters, and it's a little bit longer in the barrel length than the other gun. Now the differences with the 91/41 is the rear sight has been changed. It is in this position here, I believe it's 100 meters, and then folded back it starts at 200 meters. Also, this gun does not have the 5 facets on the thing. It has the conical turned barrel, and the older style is gone. After a certain point, all the Carcanos, they stopped doing that on the barrels. And like I said, a little bit shorter, but the only other larger difference is this rifle is set up for both sling points, side mount and the standard bottom mount. So that's the basic long rifles. Alright, next up is the 1891 TS or Troop Special rifle. I have two examples here that are unmodified, and I will show you what the original condition looks like. This one up here on the top is basically a shorter carbine style version of the 1891 rifle. Okay, has a bent bolt handle, has a different style rear sight, but these are also calibrated to, I believe it could be 400 meters or more. These here have the facets on the barrel shank here, flat sides. Bent bolt handle. The sling mounts originally were here and here, just down here normally. And the front sight, and this used a special bayonet that swung sideways on there. I made some videos of it. And how they look, I have the second one here upside down. As you can see, this is the original condition. That's where the sling mounts are, down on the bottom, part of that front end cap here. That's where they're attached. And also you can see that little lug. There's a little lug on the barrel. That's evident on all of these. You can see it on that one too. That's something to do to stabilize that sideways mounting bayonet. Now after the war, in the 20s, they sent out little bulletins to modify these guns. And this is when you're going to start seeing variations. These two, this one and this one, is the original configuration. But starting in the 20s, they wanted an addition of a side sling mount system to help make the gun more usable for like bicycle troops and that. So you will find that this gun here has a modification. They just drilled a hole into the stock and with a bolt mounted this sling point on and cut a notch in there and then mounted that bar in there into the stock. That was the first of several modifications. And you will find variations of these different modifications on these guns. You will actually find them with a TS style 28 stock, but it's a dead giveaway when you look in this front sight and that little lug is still there. So you can find these guns in several different variations and modifications over time. I myself have one unusual one, which is this one down here. What they did is they took the sling swivel off of this, plugged the hole up there where the bottom mounting swivel was, like that there. They plugged that up and then added that add-on style where they bolted this in and then cut out the stock for the bar. This is kind of an unusual modification in one way, where most of them were done like this, where you still kept both types of mounts. But like I said, you will find an older dated rifle with type 28 stock and using the barrel, but that nub on the end of the barrel will be ground off or something. So you can find these TS's were kept in service for quite a long time. So that's my grouping there. That one's not so much a variation, it just has that stock stamp on there from 47, which makes that a little bit more unusual. But that's my original 91 TS collection right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Alright, next up is a grouping of 91/24 TS's. Now this was the guns, some of these came out here at first on several different websites, and there was a lot of controversy about them because what these are is these are cut down long rifles. What the Italians decided to do after World War I is they realized the long rifle was too cumbersome in modern warfare. So they decided to take guns and cut them down, take the rifles, cut them down. And a lot of them also had corrosion and wear in the bore, supposedly. And that is what, if you look there on that shank where it says 17, a little asterisk. Now, either they refreshed the rifling, sorry about that, had to get a drink of water. There's a lot of confusion. They only did this for a while and they didn't do a lot of these, so these actually are hard to find in this configuration in nice shape. But exactly how they cut down the rifles, and that is, I believe they just didn't keep good records, and they only did it for 4 years. Okay, and I really can't find an exact reference. I have some people tell me, but I guess what the asterisk means is they either shortened the barrel one thread and then rechambered it, or re-cleaned out the rifling somehow, which refreshed it. Could be, I'm not quite sure. This one does not have the asterisk on there, which most of these do. And this one has a 1917 date. This one has a 1896 date on there. And they redid the sight with a different style sight, which is set to 300 meters, I believe, or 400. And interestingly enough, they did have to cut off and remachine the barrel to get this sight on. And then how they did this one, they all come with, you know, the dual sling points. Okay. In other words, it's built right in. Take the sling either way. Okay, there was no modification. That's how they were redone. And they used the knife-style bayonet, not that side locking thing. So they use a different style bayonet. So I got some of these here that are a little different, and they do shoot well. So got to do some more research on it, more questions raised, and more experimentation with this model and try and clarify it. But if the rifling is good and not worn out in them, they're good shooters. Okay, that's what I found out, but I have to do more work with it. So that's your 91/24 TSs. I have 3 examples of them there. Alright, 2 1928 TSs would be 91/28 TSs. What does that mean? Well, they converted the long rifles into 91/24s, and they started brand new production of TS rifles. The one on the top is a 1929 made by Beretta, and it's basically the TS. They still have the faceted or fauceted barrel shanks, have this style rear sight, again set at 300 meters, and this particular one is kind of unusual that it only has sling mounts on the bottom. And again, these are set up by now. That side mount bayonet is gone, and these take the standard knife bayonet that will go on all 91, the long rifle and the TSs. Now I have a 1930 built version down here below it, and if you notice there's a variation because the top one only has bottom mounted slings, where this one here, made a year later, has dual sling points, side mounted and the lower one here. So you have 2 sling mounting points and the bayonet and that. And that's where you'll find these strange variations. And even when certain companies or certain manufacturers were changing to a different style, the M38 style fixed sight, some companies even into the 40s made these TSs or cavalry carbines with the older style sight. Okay, and this is where you're going to find these strange variations. These 2 are dated here correctly for 28 style. They don't have like a 1940s date on it, where it should have a fixed sight by then. So that's something you're going to find, all these unusual variations along the way. So that's the 91/28s. Okay, the cavalry carbines, 1891s. There's one on top, and I'm going to cover 2 models here. I'm going to cover the 1891 Cav carbine and the M38 cavalry carbine, which is the second rifle there. The top gun up here, it's a 1901 build, is what the original cavalry carbine was. The style sight, folding bayonet, and it has that squared off back of the barrel, which was standard on all Carcanos, had them facets on the barrel. There's 5 of them. Turn down bolt handle, folding bayonet. Now the early versions, you will find several different types of bayonet catches on here. I'm not quite sure what the original first one was, but they didn't like them, so they modified them over the years several times. This one still has one of the older style. There's another style where there's a little switch here that'll unlock the bayonet, and I've seen pictures of some unusual one-of-a-kind type latches, so anything can go on the older ones. Also, in these recent imports, I guess this gun originally did not have this little wooden piece on the upper handguard. This little wooden thing. There were pictures of some variations that will come in where this tab is not present and there is no upper handguard. That was the original, but because the troops would burn their hands, they were later modified and changed over, and this was added. but I have seen examples where this is missing and it is correct. So bear that in mind. So that's what it originally looked like. And like I said, they changed the latches on them. Then come 1938, this is where you have the fixed rear sight. By then, all of them had this standard button latch like that. That was standard on all of them. And side-mounted sling. Turn this one over and show you. They've always had a side-mounted sling and a little trapdoor in the butt for the cleaning rod. Okay, that's where that goes. And the folding bayonet. That one has the button style. And also with the 38s at a certain point in time, that's when they started having this tapered round barrel shank here. And I believe the date on this one, this is 1941 on this gun here. And that would be the model M9138 Cavalry carbine. About the only difference. It's squared off things gone, fixed sight, and by then they all have the button style release on the bayonet. But virtually the same gun. Now this one here I have, I believe this is rounded off, and I believe the date is 1936 on this one. So this one was made prior to the war, and that's what it kind of looks like here. Even if it had an earlier style bayonet type of catch, they could have changed it. Now this one down here, I got this as an example. This I'm going to call a post-war rework M39. We have the fixed sight, and the only thing on the barrel shank is the serial number. There's absolutely nothing else. It looks like it's been re-blued and the stock varnished with the bayonet on it. I believe what the Italians did is refurbish these guns, took off all the fascist markings or assembled them from parts post-war, and then either sold these on the surplus market or just out on the world global arms market to make money. So you'll find them like that. I have two examples of guns like this that, you know, do not have dates or nothing on them, that had to be reworked or assembled or refinished post-war guns. And of course they all end up on the surplus market eventually. So that's our Cavalry carbines. I only have 4 examples of these in the 6.5 caliber. I have 2 in another caliber, but these are the only 6.5s I got. Alright, the M38 7.35 caliber weapons. This is when the Italians decided they were going to change the caliber and make a general purpose short rifle, which is this M35 here, that would have the rounded barrel shank, fixed sights, okay, a length that fit in as both a rifle and a carbine, and they had a different style bayonet mount. I'll look at it here, where the bayonet could be mounted and folded back. So this rifle here was going to be the one size fits all. And what they did with these original guns is some of them they just refurbished and created them out of older rifles. They rebored out the barrels. That's why the caliber and the chambering is very similar. The bolts, bolt heads, extractors will work on both calibers. It was a pretty ingenious conversion. And they did them both. They created these rifles. They did it to the Cavalry carbine, like this one here. And there was a troop special, but I have not run across one, a troop special style, one of these in 7.35. I believe those did not leave the country and not a lot were made, so they're kind of a tough find. And there are early variations, prototype variations with different, which you see them every now and again, but they're rare and extremely hard to find. So these are my 7.35s. The top one is really nice condition, and this was one of the ones that was given to Finland. It has the SA stamped in the box there. And this is the most common one you'll find. You'll find these fairly easily in the short rifle version. The Cavalry carbine is a little bit more difficult to find. That took me time to get this example. Now this example was pretty good. It's a 1938, I believe. You got your fixed rear sight and all of that there. And I have my two examples down here I got from Royal Tiger. Now the reason I was excited to get these here is any of the guns that stayed in Italian service have a stamp, caliber 7.35 on the stock, where the more common Finnish ones do not. Okay, this Cavalry carbine has it. This one has a good example. And my Royal Tiger, my two Royal Tigers have them on there, but you can barely see them. It's on this one, but it's hard to see. So that's my extent. There's only 3 variations of the 7.35. It would be the short rifle, a troop special, and a Cavalry carbine. And the later two, the Cavalry carbine and the troop special, could be kind of difficult to find. Like I said, most of the ones sent to Finland ended up here on the surplus market back in the 50s and the 60s, and that's why it's quite popular. But one thing, while I got the guns here, I want you to notice is on these 7.35s, they have a sling mount here that is on the side. There isn't one down here. And this is going to be relevant to the next gun we're going to review. Okay. Next up, we have some M38 rifles. Now the top one is the M38 short rifle in 6.5. Okay. The Italians kind of like the idea, and even though they scrapped the 7.35 caliber, they still manufacture these guns in 6.5. And it's the same thing here. Fixed sight, okay, and by now the guns all have this rounded barrel shank. The flats are gone, outmoded. I believe this one is a 1941. Okay, fixed sights, has that funky, you can fold the bayonet thing down in the new style lug and set up here. And also one thing, like I said, where my 7.3s only have side sling mounts, this rifle has low sling mount points here and here, along with the side mounts. So that's a little bit different than the 7.3 rifle. There. And I also have this troop special, which is a M35 style, but again, I'm going to tell you, I believe this is a post-war rework. And why? Strangely, on this troop special, it only has lower sling mounts. There. You know, it takes the knife bayonet, like all the 91s, but it doesn't have side slings. Has the fixed sight, the round barrel shank there. And this one also, it's like got a gloss finish. There are no markings other than the serial number. There's no date or anything on it. And this gun was like mint. This has got a mint bore on it. When I got it, I was quite surprised. So I'm going to have to call that another post-war assembly or reworked gun, or it was made from leftover stuff and sold out on the market to help boost the economy. And the M38, which this gun also has a beautiful bore on it and shoots well. That's what I use to test my new ammo in, is this one here. So that's it for my extent of the M38s and the 6.5. Now we're going to get into the specialty guns in our collection of Carcanos. This is a Japanese Type I. And what this was is on some strange contract or something, and because they're allies, the Japanese Navy outsourced and had the Italians build them these rifles, and this is in the 6.5 Japanese caliber. And Japanese Navy had a bunch of these guns manufactured for them, and the Italians did it. And what you have is said Japanese Type 38 features, you know, like the stock. This is a two-piece Japanese style stock, and you know, the trigger guard and that, but it has a Carcano style bolt. Okay, in there. It takes stripper clips, and that, not the end block clips. Japanese style rear sights and handguards, and in their caliber. I'll open the bolt up here. Okay, and as we see, it looks like a Type 91 rifle bolt, but it takes a stripper clip. It has a Mauser style magazine, 5-shot magazine. Let me get that in there so we can look at the bolt a little better. You know, and other features of the bolt other than this rear part is it has Carcano style extractor and bolt lugs. And the rifle's kind of devoid of all markings other than the serial number. And it has the same style sight that is used on Japanese rifles. I'm not really quite sure what bayonet this model takes, probably a Japanese bayonet. I'll flip it around and we'll look at it from below. That's why I kind of hate having slings on these guns. But the stock is, you can see it there, the two-piece style Japanese stock, the way they like it. It has a Mauser style trigger guard, I believe very similar to a Type 38, and there's the release that you can hit that, and I believe it should release the lower magazine thing. I can't get it, my hands in film. Cleaning rod and that, bayonet lug. Kind of Japanese style fittings too. So this was kind of unusual. You can find these around. They're not that difficult to find, just kind of the price you may have to pay. I never did a video on this gun. I've had this gun for quite a while. I have tested some of my ammunition with it, but it is something I've neglected to add into my Carcano series, but I think I'll have to correct that here soon. So there you have it, the Japanese Type I. Alright, and last in my collection here are our post-war 8mm versions of the Carcano. Now these are not to be confused with the German manufactured ones that were made up during the war towards the end. These all came in at one point, and they were all, I believe, manufactured post-war by the Italians, and they were sold to the Egyptians because the Egyptians were using 8mm rifles. So the Italians made up a bunch of these and somehow sold them, and I guess they were used for drill rifles at one point in time. They are of the M38 style, so they got the fixed rear sights. But the one glaring difference is you can see they have these reinforcements in the stock because of the recoil generated by the 8mm Mauser round. They had to have them reinforcements in there so the stocks wouldn't break. And this one is my recent acquisition, the TS style. This one has an S on the receiver and S on the bolt, and it says there 7.92 manufacturer serial number, and that's about it. Some of these will have Arabic writing on the stock. It's your standard TS, and I think the TS bayonet or the standard Carcano bayonet does fit on this. And this only has the sling mounts down on the bottom. The other one that's kind of more difficult to find is they did do a Cavalry carbine version of this. And as you see, another feature, they had to mill out the receiver because of the longer cartridge to get it to feed in there. These bolts are different, okay, for the 8mm. The bolt bodies and the face and all that, they are different. You can't swap these out. These are specifically made for the guns. And this one here has just a serial number on the barrel and 7.92 kind of crudely stamped in there. And it is just like the other Cavalry carbines. When I got this one, the firing pin was broke off on it. This one was not. So I don't know if somebody had this and replaced it, or if the Egyptians broke or ground the firing pin tips off so they couldn't be shot. And then it comes in now, the controversy, are these safe to shoot, and how do you make the clips and all this other stuff. I don't really know if they ever made clips. Some people said that they have made the special clip for the 8mm. There is a way of modifying a Carcano magazine to hold 5 rounds, or a Carcano clip, in block mag, whatever you want to call it. There is a way of modifying Carcano 6.5 clip to fit into this rifle. Some people say the little hook down in the trigger guard is shaped different, that if you swap that out with just a regular 6.5, it'll hold the magazine correctly or something, and after you modify it, I don't know. There are people that have shot these. If you go around YouTube, nobody really, there's a guy that shows you cycling the gun and shooting it, but he doesn't tell you how he did it or where he got it or how to modify something that'll work in there. So, and both of these guns are like in new shape. I don't think they shot them. I don't really think you do want to shoot them with some ball ammo, but I'll make up some cast bullets, and probably when I get a chance I will see how to modify something that'll work to hold 5 rounds at 8mm, and get some good information and figure it out, and then get these out and shoot them. I'll shoot them with a cast bullet load. I don't need to, at my age, to risk it and go full house, because someone did point out. I'll open a bolt and show you. You really can't see it in this light. Let me move over. But these bolts are different. The lugs on this are bigger, and when they machine these receivers out and rebarrel them, somebody had a good photograph where you can see that when they machined out down in here, they had to take more off of the receiver. So in other words, the gap or mortise where your locking lugs turn and lock on this modified receiver compared to like a 6.5 receiver. This distance or this area here is thinner. So in the opinion of a lot of people, these guns really are not safe to shoot. And like I said, if I fool with them, it'll be a light cast bullet load. Well, that's it for the grand tour of my Carcano collection as it stands now. I don't believe I'm going to purchase any more right off the bat until I sort things out and figure out where I'm going with what I have. I know DK Firearms had a bunch of M91 Cavalry carbines come in at a reasonable price. They're decent people to deal with, but I don't see adding any more to what I have now. But thanks for watching, and as usual, stay tuned, subscribe, and I'd like to thank everyone for the support that they send into my channel. I appreciate it very much, and it does help me an awful lot. So have a nice rest of the Saturday afternoon.